What's the good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. I wanted to kick things off by telling you guys you'll see a number at the bottom. You can text, leave a voicemail. I'm hoping once we start getting some responses in, I'll be able to do a weekly mailbag of sorts. But to jump into the topic for today, if you're still paying attention to New York Jets games with a couple of weeks left to go in the season, the Jets officially being eliminated, it's probably for one of two reasons. With young guys being elevated, you're seeing Quantez Stickers, for example, get a chance to have a starting opportunity. Guys like Zach Kuntz that have been forgot about and been stashed away on a practice squad. The Perfect 10 RAS tight end, if you guys aren't familiar with the name anyways, he's also being elevated from practice squad. So if you're not watching those guys, then most likely you're tuning into the Tankathon and you want to see how bad we look and if it'll correlate to bumping up in the draft priority. And there is some good news here, right? We talked maybe a couple days ago, maybe about a week, about how we lost position even after losing some games, but the script could be flipped this week. Right now there's a lot of ifs, a lot of buts with this, but the Jets do have the opportunity to have the number one selection in the NFL draft by the time this week's game's finished, if everything goes their way. If the Jets were to win against the Jaguars, the worst case scenario for us is that we pick ninth. We'll be a fringe top 10 team, and that brings a ton of other questions, which I want to get into here in a second. But if we were to lose, we would need upsets from every other team in order to reach that top 10 pick in terms of guys projected to pick ahead of us currently, where we're slotted in at 7th. So we need 6 teams to go ahead and earn victories this week, which isn't out of the norm. Over the last couple of years, there's been a few weeks each season where there's been a multitude of upsets and some crazy earnings for people that are putting bets in, right? But depending on where we end up slide, right, there's an important conversation because without the GM, without the head coach being in play, there's still a lot of important questions that, us as content creators have raised, you New York Jets fans that have brought questions to the table that nobody have thought of. Huge things, but I think the key here really is based on who may be available. How is that going to change the conversation? Is it going to be quarterback as the go-to draft pick in the first round? Or is it going to be best player available where you're hearing a ton of interesting names that are getting tossed around currently, like Mason Graham, like Drew Allar, for example. So we'll see what happens there. I do think strongly that the strategy will be dependent upon where we actually end up selecting. Trade down is always an option, different things of that nature, right? But I do think any new regime coming in is going to want to have a strong opportunity to select their quarterback right out of the gate so that they can eliminate the excuses up front and try to fulfill that vision as quickly as possible. But as I said, there's a lot of ifs, there's a lot of buts to this. You're looking at teams like the Raiders, the Giants, the Titans. I think these teams could potentially be likely losers. The Titans a little bit more up in the air, right? They're facing the Bengals, who have had a very terrible season in and of themselves, haven't come anywhere close to the expectations that they've had, but you never know. The Titans, pretty hard fought team that can get some surprise wins in there, but if anything, I would say the Raiders and the Giants are more likely to lose in addition to the Titans this week. The Patriots and the Panthers are probably the most likely teams to pull off an upset when you take a look at what Drake May has been able to contribute and how he's been able to progressively take steps to becoming a better quarterback. Obviously, some questions with the defense there with New England. But on the flip side, you take a look at the Panthers. Bryce Young also taking huge leaps after being benched earlier this season. And I think they've lost like their last couple games by a combined 12 points or something. So there's really been a huge turnaround, especially when you look at them being able to put pressure on teams like the Chiefs, for example, and take them down to the wire. So you have to imagine they're feeling really good, and I'm sure they like a top pick. But seeing that Bryce Young is potentially fulfilling a lot of those hopes as a former number one pick, that's probably more important to him. And then, of course, we have the pivotal matchup, Jets versus Jaguars. Who's actually the worst team? You have Trevor Lawrence, you have Aaron Rodgers out there. There's a lot to be disappointed on both sides of these fan bases here, but ultimately, the way the Jets are rolling along, the dramatic fashion and out of the box thinking that is done in terms of how we've lost a lot of these games this year, I'd have to check off the Jets, right? At this point, I have to bet against us because we just can't get anything right. And it doesn't help that we're seeing key guys like DJ Reed and potentially Tyler Conklin not being able to show up, Breece Hall with his injury, Aaron Rodgers obviously dealing with whatever stuff he has going on after refuting all kind of injury reports. So ultimately, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think, though. Best case scenario, I'm hoping we can jump up to maybe that 4th, 5th spot range if there are 2 or 3 upsets like we mentioned. Any team in this 3-10 kind of column grouping that we have, the 5 or 6 so teams that have that record, anybody that wins is going to take a pretty significant tumble, right, if they're closer to that 3rd and 4th mark. So again, let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you again. Peace.